saved him was, a fantasy. But that fantasy was rooted in the illusion that she actually had the power to control whether he lived or died. And believing that we have this kind of control makes us feel less frightened. But buying into the illusion that we have this control makes us vulnerable to self-recrimination. I could have saved him, but I didn't. So as a shrink, I know that self-incrimination following the bodily departure of a loved one can be caused by buried unconscious anger. So most adults retain some degree of magical thinking from childhood. And because a young kid's mind doesn't separate feelings from outcomes, a kid believes that wishing mommy or daddy dead is the same as killing him or her. And since a child needs parents, it becomes dangerous to even feel angry with your parents. So, I remember a patient who wished that her grandfather, who had cancer, would die because he smelled funny. And when he left his body the very next day after she had the wish, she had a nervous breakdown because she thought her wish had literally killed him. So when we self-incriminate after someone leaves his body, we're actually blaming ourselves for the anger we harbored, and maybe on a deeper level, even holding ourselves responsible for that person's bodily departure. So as my own self-incrimination barreled on like a runaway train, Jean just interrupted my thoughts mid-sentence, and he said, "If I had known I could be so close to you from the eternity," that was his term for the afterlife or the dark matter or heaven, whatever you want to call it, "I wouldn't have had to push you away. I was holding you off because I was afraid that you would die of a broken heart after I died." Well, his words shattered me because he was telling me that the fear, the reactions like a deer in the headlights, the rebuffs and the rejections ultimately stemmed from such a depth of love that we shared that it made him afraid to leave me. And his distancing behavior was an unconscious attempt to create emotional space between us in a vain attempt to protect me from dying of despair. Because even he, one of the world's true mystics, one of the 50 men of all time who the Dalai Lama named as one with God, even he didn't know that he could be so close to me in spirit form. So what we struggled with before is no longer an issue, he went on to say, meaning he no longer needed to separate himself from me in order to protect me from the devastation of his loss. And of course, I just burst into tears. What a gift he gave me in revealing that he could be even closer to me in spirit than when he lived in the physical world. But a few days later, I couldn't shake the lingering fear that his tendency to pull back was induced by me, that he may have been recoiling from me to protect himself from the abandoned infant that lives within me, to protect himself from a terminal case of chafed nipples. So as I started doubting whether I could ever again bond with anything other than a bagel, I felt Jean leading me to his filing cabinet. And he led me to a folder where I found a letter that he had written to a shaman, a priest doctor who was one of the many people we consulted to help us deal with his pattern of rejecting me. And in this letter, Jean wrote that the problem we had was his. He explained that he often recoiled when I approached him out of fear that he would be devoured by my love. He stated that he knew intellectually that his fears were irrational and that each time he had the courage to speak to me and ask for space rather than reject me outright, I was always loving and accepting and happy to give him what he needed. His letter was such a priceless gift because he was telling me in no uncertain terms that it wasn't my fault that he had rejected me and that I must no longer doubt myself. And it was the final nail in the coffin of all my self-doubts on that subject. So as my experience with Jean shows you, sometimes we have to wait until after someone leaves his body before a conflict, before some unfinished business can be resolved. So this means you must never give up hope of healing a relationship with someone who has left his body. And just as he did in life, Jean continues to bless me with his grace, his kindness, and unending love. And this same grace, kindness, healing, and unending love awaits you as you reconnect with your loved ones in spirit. And even though they may have hurt you physically or emotionally or even sexually, they are standing at the ready, wanting and waiting to help you heal for your sake and for theirs. Now, I want to make sure you have the live call-in number. If you're listening live rather than listening to the recorded podcast, I'm here for you to help you begin your reconnection and dialogue and healing unfinished business. Or if you have any questions that you'd like me to answer, the number is 833-220-1200. That's 833-220-1200. And last week when I was live with my guest, Suzanne Wilson, we had so many calls, and I just got so caught up in the conversation with her, I didn't pay attention that my dear engineer Bob was texting me with so many calls. So if you're live today, I am taking calls. Now, everything that we're talking about in terms of healing unfinished business with those in spirit is predicated on the knowledge that we evolve through bodily departure. Now, Jean has shown me beings evolve when they enter the spirit realm. In spirit form, we become more knowing, more sensing, and more seeing. Now, how did I discover this? Well, the first week after Jean left his body, I had to take my car in for service. Now, this is a task that Jean always did, so I didn't know anyone at the garage. But as soon as I walked in and began talking to Debbie, I introduced myself for the first time, and she told me she was a widow. That's all she had to say. In seconds, her deceased husband was delivering a message to her through me. And this was the first message that I received from someone other than Jean. And I couldn't ignore the sense that her husband was banging down her door in order to get through to his wife. Well, he was banging down my door so that I would help him get through to his wife. And he said, "Tell her she's making the same mistake with our son that I did." Now, when I told Debbie what her husband had said to me, she blinked in total astonishment. And he went on to say that it was his own stubbornness that created the rebellious attitude in their son, and she was falling into the same trap, and she has to do everything possible to avoid it. So Debbie then confirmed the total accuracy of this message. So you see, her husband, in spirit form, had received a wake-up call through his life review, and he knew what he hadn't understood when he lived in his physical body. And as you see, the only way that he could help her to heal the relationship and the unfinished business that he had with his son is to give her the awareness that he discovered of the mistakes he made that she's now making. So the point is, it's never too late to make peace with those in spirit. And I've learned it becomes possible for us to resolve issues that never could have been resolved when our loved one lived in a body. And what's also true is that those in spirit yearn to right their wrongs and make amends with us, with those of us on the earth plane. And this means it is never too late to heal wounds, resolve resentments, make peace, and restore a damaged relationship. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk more with you about how dialoguing can help not only you heal, but also help spirits evolve. Back in a moment.
Omega Institute, offering workshops, retreats, and online learning dedicated to awakening the best in the human spirit. For 40 years, Omega has been a gathering place for great thinkers, creative talent, spiritual teachers, and social visionaries. With 390 workshops to choose from, Omega offers something for everyone. Located in Rhinebeck, New York, just 90 miles north of New York City, Omega's natural environment and quiet pace allow for extraordinary experiences to unfold. Learn more at eomega.org.
Are you ready for the quantum age?
Humanity's next step in evolution?
Dream Vision 7 Radio Network invites you to the extraordinary platform of evolutionary voices for the quantum age.
Let's explore. Learn more about this upcoming age where we bridge science with spirituality.
Where potentiality meets reality.
Where we take compassion into action.
Our trailblazers and visionaries will ask the whys, the what-ifs, while igniting continuous possibility.
Come along with us into an age beyond what we know today, where we can grow together in unity consciousness.
Experience evolutionary voices for the quantum age, Monday through Friday at 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Eastern on DreamVision7Radio.com.
This is Dream Vision 7 Radio Network, uniting mankind with universal love. Our shows are created from the heart, bringing each listener to a place of divine enlightenment. Breathe, relax, and enjoy. Let life flow.
You're listening to Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. If you yearn to get along better with your life partner or spouse, friends, family members, and even coworkers, Dr. Turndorf's book, Kiss Your Fights Goodbye, Dr. Love's 10 Simple Steps to Cooling Conflict and Rekindling Your Relationship, shows you how to turn conflict into connection for a lifetime of lasting love. Find out more about Kiss Your Fights Goodbye at AskDrLove.com. This is Love Never Dies with Dr. Jamie Turndorf. This show is for you, the listener. Once again, here's Dr. Turndorf.
Welcome back to Love Never Dies Radio. I'm Dr. Jamie Turndorf. We're talking about how to finish unfinished business with those in spirit. And before I took the break, I said, you must know that it's possible for you to resolve issues that never could have been resolved when your loved one lived in a body, and that they really yearn to right their wrongs and make amends with you. And if you're carrying resentment towards someone who mistreated or abused you, I also want you to know you're not expected to force forgiveness on yourself. Beings in spirit form accept you as you are, right where you are. You can be angry, you can rage at them for as long as you need to. They're not going anywhere. They have an eternity to work it out with you, and all you need to do is just open your heart and allow the process of healing to begin. Allow them to make peace with you and to shower you with love. And if you're too mad at them to take their love, then to sit with you as you tell them of your hurt and your anger. Now, how do I know that reconnecting not only helps us to grow and heal, but also helps spirits evolve? Well, it happened on my first Good Friday following Jean's bodily departure, and I felt led to visit a woman named Lainey who sells exotic birds. I couldn't have spoken to her, or I'm sure I hadn't spoken to her in at least 5 years, and that's when we had put Fluffy, our little canary, to sleep, and I knew really nothing about her personal life. So as I came to her house, I felt I'd been sent to help her and one of her birds. And as soon as I walked inside, she showed me a young female finch that she said was dying. And she explained that finches can't go more than a day without food, and this little one hadn't eaten for a day. And Lainey said that she wouldn't last to nightfall. Now, the bird sat motionless on the perch. Her feathers were all puffed up. And I asked Lainey if I could try to heal the bird, and she said, okay. So I walked over to the bird cage, and I pressed my face to the thin metal bars. Now, normally having someone come this close would distress a bird, but this creature was not distressed. And as I began talking to the bird, she became aware of my presence and then became excited. And then she started jumping up and down, and she even began flying. And I told her aloud that I wanted her to go to her seed bowl and begin eating. And the bird obeyed me immediately. And the more she ate, the stronger she became, and the more she wanted to eat. And by this point, she was scarfing up seeds like a mini vacuum cleaner. It was then that I felt a tidal wave of love and realized that it was Jean who had led me here. In this really elegantly orchestrated manifestation, he was simultaneously blessing Lainey by allowing me to save her bird, but also giving me the blessing of saving her little bird the way I couldn't save our Fluffy. So I then sensed two spirit presences surrounding Lainey, and I picked up an extreme sense of urgency, as though they were beating down my door in their eagerness to speak to her. At that moment, I saw that the bird had sensed their presence as well, And she looked distressed again, and she started stretching her head heavenward. And it occurred to me that the spirit presences surrounding